I, 27F, moved to the US almost 7 years ago. I have 2 half-sisters from my father's side, all from different women. We used to be very close, and despite both of them being illegitimate, I shared with them part of what little inheritance I got from my grandparents. They never recognized them and left them nothing. 2 years ago my sisters also moved to the US. The middle sister, 28, let's call her Mary, got a company to host her with a work visa. The eldest 30, Karen, not her real name, got a student visa and moved in with me since I was already working and earning a good salary. The arrangement was that I would pay bills, she would get a job at the university since she's not allowed to work outside, and that was her spending money. I would cover all bills and food. The only thing I asked was to help with some minor chores. I have a dog and a cat, and I told her she had no responsibility while she had school and work. It was fine, since I work from home, and I have a stepfamily that helped me maintaining my home, mostly because I'm the free babysitter for them. Pretty sweet deal for a student, right? Well, apparently that wasn't enough. While she was in school, Karen met Ken. I knew Ken from the time I went to university. He's a creep, but I thought harmless. Karen was head over heels for him. I warned her Ken had a bad reputation at the university, but she didn't care. She's a big girl, so I let it be, with the only condition that Ken was not allowed in my place. COVID hits, and my hours were cut. Karen's school goes on pause and she loses her campus job. Because of all of this, we moved into a small apartment. I took a second job, and did some freelance on the side. Needless to say, I had no personal life. I am dating someone, but he was also swamped with work and bills, so we barely met each other. During this time, Ann and Ken apparently got closer and he began to appear in the apartment. Karen was not part of my lease, but my landlord was very understanding. Ken began making really inappropriate comments about me. I am not a beauty queen, I just look a bit exotic, as Ken put it. I'm mixed race from the Caribbean, so I have a bit of everything and somehow it all shows. Karen looks more like our father, he was of European descent. In all honesty, Karen is more attractive. I only look foreign in this little Intermountain region city. Ken would go out of his way to touch me and was just invasive. I managed to just keep in my room when he was around or use the excuse that my pets needed a walk. I didn't know exactly why, but Karen kept pushing for me to spend time on my own with Ken. It will be good for you to bond with your future brother-in-law. They had only been dating 7 months at this point. Whatever, I didn't care. I found excuses to avoid it. November 2020 I got a better position at my main career job, so I was able to quit my second job and have more me time. I reconnected with friends and one of them asked me if I was okay. I asked why and he told me Ken had been saying he was very close to getting me for personal time. I was not okay with that idea. And I very loudly said I'd rather be hit by a train than doing anything with Ken. Since I'm in a small city in the Intermountain region, the kind that most people in the same area knows each other, a lot of people had text messages or creepy stories to tell me. That was it for me. I went home and demanded an explanation. They didn't deny it. Ken even said Karen had said it was fine and I was doing them a solid as her sister, since he had a fantasy he wanted to go for. I told them both they were disgusting and that Ken had to leave or I would be calling the cops. Ken left with some insults sent my way, and Karen began telling me she didn't see the problem since my partner and I were on a break. We were not. I told her as not for her to sell around like property and that she had 2 weeks to find a place of her own. I was done with her. I called all my relatives, sent them copies of the text messages I was given, and no one in our family wanted anything to do with Karen. She moved in with Ken a few days later. It took me some effort, but I was able to get a restraining order for Ken. Couldn't get one for Karen. Still, they disappeared from my radar except for a few encounters which easily were solved with showing I was about to call 911. And then today happened and I had to hold back my laughter. Mary had kept tabs on Karen, since sisters and all, and she messaged me with a notice. Hey, Karen just called me. She's pregnant and Ken kicked her out. I just stared for a few minutes and responded, oh. That's sad. Mary knew, and supports, that I don't care or have any intentions to help. Karen used Mary's phone to call me. She begged me to help, since Mary is only letting her stay for a week before she moves to another state. Said that she missed her little sister and had no one else to go to. That she knows I have family health insurance. I pay for private health insurance for 2 relatives that are in hard times and have health conditions, and that I could do something like that for her pregnancy medical bills. This baby is a blessing and I should want to help her raise it. Meaning, I pay for everything. I let her pour her heart out for a good 5 to 7 minutes, then said nope. I ended the call. She tried calling again for a while, then stopped when I got a text message from Mary saying she had left her phone on the counter and she was sorry for the spamming. Most of my family agrees with me, even Karen's mom. The only one that disapproves is Karen's aunt. She's not my aunt, but I called her aunt anyway since I've known her for many years. She's been putting pressure on me most of the day. She only stopped when I told her one more message and I would show her text messages to my stepfather, who is her landlord. I feel bad for the baby, to a point. But this is one of those moments that all I can think is this is not my circus, and these are not my monkeys. Edit 1. Someone mentioned the region inconsistency. I never looked into it, since I didn't really care, but where I live I heard Midwest and Northwest interchangeably. As far as I was concerned, it was the same thing. We don't have that type of regions in my country. So, I decided to Google while at work and found out neither is right. I live in the Intermountain region. Thanks, random stranger, for making me check on the messy regional system. Not even Google agrees on it. Also a small explanation on my grandparents. They were very old traditionalists. By the end of their lives, they didn't have much to give, so they chose to give it to the legal grandchildren. My sperm donor father had many children. I might not even know all of them. Grandparents were just tired of every other year having a new grandchild appear, and in some cases a moocher mother attached. Last, Karen's visa. She had an extension since COVID, but that is over. She's overstaying her visa. This is very common. I have relatives that do it. I don't agree, but I also had one foot in since my stepfather is American. Update 1. Mary called me this morning to have brunch and discuss things related to Karen. She told me she understood I don't want to be part of the mix, but she really wanted it to be discussed and after I can just walk out. I know Mary, and I know she's just trying to leave everything in order before she leaves the state. She's the peacekeeper of my siblings. I agreed on the condition that there was no way Karen would come home with me. Mary just said, if she tries to follow you, I'll drag her out myself. So I dressed up and off I went to brunch with my sisters. I'll skip the pleasantries and dumb friendly family look Karen attempted. Once we were done eating and just having coffee, Mary said all the cards on the table. She explained she couldn't take Karen with her out of state, because she's getting married to her longtime girlfriend and they can only afford a one-bedroom in her new city. She also said Karen was insane if she thought Mary would allow her to live with me, even if she had the power to make me take Karen back in. That Karen was lucky she even let her stay with her for this last few days. She told her the only reason we were doing this was because her mother had begged her to at least put Karen somewhere safe or find a solution for the pregnancy. So, she turned to me and asked me as the most stable economically if there was anything I would be willing to help with. I might be an asshole for this, feel free to roast me, but I basically said I would only give money for 3 things. 1. A termination and a hotel room while she heals from it. 2. A ticket back to home country so she can live with her mother or aunt, and get free health care. 3. A ticket to our eldest brother's home country so she can live with him because I know he will take her. I also said she had the option to put the baby up for adoption, but I would not be offering her a place to stay or a way to get medical care out of my pocket. I gave her some links to non-profits she could use. Karen started crying, saying I was trying to take away her baby and being a bad sister. That a good sister would open up her home and help care for her baby. That I never deserved to have the money I have. Most of my money is from inheritance on my mother's side of the family, so not sure how she would have gotten anything. That I was spoiled by my mother because she had money. We did, because after our father left my mother and I with nothing, she made a company from scratch. She kept babbling and making a scene, then she said something that actually hurt me. You are just mad because you will never get pregnant. Yes, I happen to be infertile. No, I can't get treatment for it. It is what it is. I already accepted it, but it still hurts. Mary knew this was a low blow for me, and basically told Karen one more stupid word like that and she'll be sleeping in the street tonight. I didn't cry or anything, just stared. Karen stopped her crying, muttering, and seemed to get an idea. She looked at me straight and told me to adopt her baby. I laughed at that. I told her she was insane if she thought I would adopt her baby. I don't want her in my life, let alone her ex. I don't blame the baby, but I have absolutely no intentions to be part of the child's life. I was about to go off on Karen just for even thinking I would consider that as an option, but Mary stopped me on time. She simply said to Karen, you have the options she gave you, her or mine. You can get a termination, or you can go back to home country. Either way, you can't stay here. You are not legal and your immigration status affects us if you were to live with us. I could lose my job, and Op could lose her resident status. You have until next Friday to choose. If none of these options work, you will have to find your own solution without us. I don't want you anywhere near my little sister. You put her at risk of being assaulted or worst. You are lucky I have an empty room for 1 more week for you to crash in, but after I don't want to see you in person. We can keep in touch by Facebook or phone. You've lost the right to spend time in person with either of us. I just stared at Mary. She's very quiet and normally the most reserved of us, so this was not expected. Mary paid, didn't even wait for the change, and left Karen with enough to get a taxi home. Mary grabbed me by the arm and took me out. I didn't know how much I needed someone to just protect me for a change, but I did cry a little on the way out from just pure relief I had one older sister that still looked out for me. We decided to go for ice cream after like we did as kids when bad things happen and discussed our plans to spend holidays and vacations together. Mary's girlfriend also joined us for ice cream and the whole time she just made jokes about how sad she's going to be without her moving table. She's much taller than me and it's a running gag with us. Nothing too dramatic, thankfully. Mary and her girlfriend are going to come later for dinner with me. Depending how this mess ends, I'll try to update, but at this point, I think it's pretty much done. Not sure if Karen will take any of the options we gave her or just do her own thing. Regardless, I have no intentions of putting my money for anything but what I said I would. And yes, Mary is my hero if anyone is curious. Small edit 1. I got asked this in a chat, and wanted to clear it up. Karen is not penniless. I gave her $10K at the start of the year when our grandmother passed away. That was her part of the $30K I was given. She's also been saving the money from her college job. I worked at the university about 4 years ago and I was getting $9 an hour. Her mom also sent her money. Unless she wasted all her funds, she won't go home without money. If that was the case, my brothers, Mary, and I would all give her something. She might be in my blacklist, but she is my sister at the end of the day. Update 2. Well, as the title says, my older half-sister Karen has made a choice. The short version of the events leading to this is Karen was living rent-free with me when she started dating a creepy guy. Her boyfriend wants to follow through a fantasy that involved my sister and I in a very disgusting activity together, and Karen was all up for it, and volunteered me without my knowledge. I kicked her out, she moved with him and got pregnant, and he kicked her out. She wanted me to not only take her in, but also basically maintain her and her baby. My sister and I gave her the options and told she would not live with either of us long term. As I mentioned in my last post, my sister Mary and I gave Karen a couple of options for her unplanned pregnancy. The options were a termination on her pregnancy, a ticket back to our home country or to our brother's home country, or she can figure a way to keep her child or put the baby for adoption. She had until tomorrow to choose, since Mary leaves on Saturday for the East Coast. Well, Karen chose none of the above. She decided to make life so difficult, she is now arrested and more than likely will be deported. Let me explain what happened. Tuesday, Mary decided to leave for a nearby national park to enjoy it one last time before she moves too far to drive there. She left Karen with a key and some money. Big mistake. Mary and her girlfriend returned yesterday and found out all the locks in their house had been changed. To make it even worse, Ken, Karen's supposed ex, had moved into their house. I know, Mary should have seen this coming, but they grew up as best friends. They used to be closer to each other than to anyone else, myself included. Obviously police were called, and it was just a major mess. Karen and Ken claimed it was their house. Mary and her girlfriend kept telling them no, it's not. It's not even Mary's house anymore. It was sold and the new family that owns it arrives on Sunday. Realtor was going to give them the key. The police officers were so done with this mess before it even escalated, and asked everyone for their IDs. Ken, Mary, and Mary's girlfriend all had their IDs. Karen only had an expired passport. Karen got arrested on immigration charges. Ken got arrested on charges relating to breaking and entering, and some others I don't know for sure. I got this secondhand from Mary while she was basically about to commit a murder felony had it not being for the officers present. Today I got called about my sister. Her lawyer said she claiming to be my surrogate and that the baby in her was actually my child. Yep, she tried this. I told the lawyer that I was not looking for a surrogate or adopting a child, I am already fostering and have N. Space, and that my sister got pregnant by accident with Ken. He asked if I would be willing to foster her baby, since the child would technically be American. I said absolutely not. He tried to work things with me, explaining my sister will most likely be deported otherwise. I just told him if that's the law, then that's how it will be. I asked him to please not contact me about her anymore. As far as I am concerned, the only family she has is in our home country. Aside from the scare and new locks, Mary is okay. The realtor has copies of the new keys for the family that owns the house. And now my sister and I are planning to have no contact with Karen. I don't know what exactly will happen to Karen. Nor do I care anymore. Now not even Aunt in home country wants anything to do with Karen, and even apologized to Mary and I. As for Ken, well, who knows? I hope he goes to jail, but if he doesn't, I couldn't care less. I now feel like a massive boulder is off my shoulders and can just focus on work and teaching my foster daughter about Star Wars. We have already watched all of the original trilogy and we have a Clone Wars marathon planned for the weekend. I want to thank everyone who sent me well wishes to my sister Mary and I also to the people that share advice that I am so glad I took to heart. This has been probably the worst roller coaster family mess I've dealt with since my parents' divorce, and it came absolutely from the one person I suspected less. Can't say I have any entitled stories aside from this. Karen was once actually a very good sister, but I guess when money and comfort are involved, people change. Small update that isn't worth a new post. Karen was offered to leave the US willingly and she will face no negative effects for her status. She called my mom to see if she could convince me to give my sister the money for the ticket. Mary and I agreed to pay the ticket on the condition she never again contacts either of us. Her mom is aware of this. A&D basically told me that Karen will have to find a job within the month she arrives, or she'll be in the streets. As for lawyers and stuff, I have my own immigration lawyer aware of the mess, and he told me the only way the surrogate ploy would work would be a DNA match or a contract. None of that is around, so I'm safe. Mary booked Karen for her trip back on Friday and good riddance. Update 3. I almost made it to a month without hearing from my half-sister, but okay, Reddit, you were right. This might never be over. Also, funny enough, dear sis found my post and sent me a scathing email before I blocked her. But that's really not a big story. This one, however, pisses me off. So, as I posted before, my older half-sister Karen was forcefully, but not really, removed by immigration after going insane and trying to get squatters' rights on a sold house that used to belong to my other half-sister Mary. And she was escorted out, so I know she left. Things were calm for a bit, and in the meantime I focused on my 4-year-old foster daughter. Let's call her Lily. Lily's mom is one of my oldest friends. She gave birth in the US, but the Lily's father is not American and unfortunately passed away when Lily was a baby. My friend was asked to leave the US to do her immigration process off country since she has no one to claim her aside from a minor child. This sadly means she probably won't be able to come into the US until Lily is 18. Because of our home country's education system being really bad, she asked me if I could take Lily. By this point I had already kicked Karen out, so I had an extra room. I told her it was okay if it was on Lily's best interest. Lily and I are tight as thieves and she's always seen me as her crazy fun aunt. Took a bit, but 3 weeks ago Lily's guardianship was passed from the state to me, and just in time for Halloween too. We are skipping trick or treating this year due to the pandemic, but Lily still wanted to dress up as a Sith. I am so proud of this child, I swear. My mom was incredibly happy of having a foster grandkid, especially since Lily actually doesn't have any other grandparents, so she sent her some fairly fancy Star Wars props. Obviously we got her dressed up in her Sith outfit and had a mini photo session for Grandma. And my mom posted the pictures in Facebook so Lily's mom could see them easily. My family and friends went crazy with how adorable Lily looks. She says she's not adorable, she's Sith. And then Karen strike back. Mom forgot or decided not to block Karen, and when my half-sister saw Lily's picture, she had some of her best hits such as, "My 4-year-old looks fat. She's ugly and clearly going to grow up to be a slut. She looks like a word I can't say even in writing, but it's the word starting in N that's just a handful." She got called out and told kindly to return to the darkness. But then she started to call my mother. At every hour. To ask for money, to ask how to contact me, to tell her she was wasting money on a kid that was not really her grandchild and should give her the money for her kid. Karen is not my mom's daughter. Well, eventually my mom figured how to block her. And Karen got to me through a school friend. She sent, not one, not two, a 16 pages long list of demands or she will sue me. One was getting rid of my foster daughter so I could adopt her baby. Another was an apartment I share with my cousins left to us by our maternal grandmother. $500K. My dog and my cat. Oh, and I need to get her back into the US. There's still more, most of it completely delusional. I sent a copy to my lawyer to try to pursue a no-contact order in the US. Can't do anything in my home country, but I did forward another copy to our relatives, including our eldest brother. He just said to me he'll take care. For the record, I am not taking Karen's kid in, even if I didn't have Lily. Her ex was recently released and has already caused problems for other people. Luckily he's keeping away from me. And to clear something up, Karen isn't penniless. I divided with her and Mary a $150K inheritance in equal parts. She also got money from her stepfather when he passed. In our home country, she's actually well off. The only reason I never charged rent or asked her for money was because I knew the tuition price was going to be very high and didn't want her to have to take a loan like I did for a time. Oop, I still have assets in our home country. The apartment, some land my maternal grandpa left me that I share with my cousin since he died before they were born, a bank account, and I'm partners in my uncle's company. She seems to think my maternal family's property is also property of my father's children, except it isn't. Most of it is premarital stuff or from after the divorce.